They call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies, a place designed to erase men from the world without killing them. No touch, no freedom, no sound, just steel, concrete, and your own mind tearing itself apart. This is not just prison. This is a coffin you live in. And I survived 12 years inside it. The bus pulled up at dawn. Shackled hand and foot, I felt the mountain air slice colder than any freedom I'd lost. The guards didn't speak. They didn't need to. ADX spoke for them. Tall fences, silent towers, and a gate that felt like it was swallowing me whole. 8 by 12 feet. That was my universe. Concrete bed, stainless steel toilet, and a slot where food slid through without faces. The window, so narrow I had to crane my neck just to see a slice of sky, was the only proof the outside world still existed. Silence inside ADX isn't peace. It's punishment. No voices, no footsteps, just the buzz of fluorescent lights drilling into your skull. Days blurred until I couldn't tell if time was moving or if I was just rotting inside concrete. Every day, the same. Wake, count, eat, count again. 23 hours locked in, 1 hour alone in a bigger cage outside. My mind started folding in on itself, replaying every mistake that led me here. They called it recreation. A dog run, really. Concrete walls too high to see over, chain link above blocking the sky. For 1 hour, I paced in circles, breathing mountain air like it was contraband. Then the slot clanged, and I was swallowed back into my box. You never see them, but you feel them. Whispers through vents, coded knocks on concrete. A man down the tier once tapped Morse code. Said he'd been here a decade, hadn't touched another human being since. 3 months in, I woke screaming. My skin crawled as if ants lived under it. I punched the steel sink until my knuckles split. No guards rushed in. At ADX, madness is just part of the design. When men cracked, they were wheeled out strapped to gurneys. Rumors said some never returned. Those who did shuffled back hollow-eyed, drugged silent. We learned quick. Break too loudly, and the system buried you deeper. The only tether to the outside was paper. A letter every few weeks from family, censored and delayed. I read each one until the words wore thin. They reminded me I was still human, something ADX wanted me to forget. They didn't yell. They didn't need to. Their silence was power. A glance through the slot, a key turning, boots on concrete. Those sounds carried more weight than any words. Food arrived on a tray, always lukewarm, always bland. I wasn't hungry for calories. I was starving for control. Sometimes I refused to eat, just to feel like I was choosing something. Lights off at night didn't mean rest. It meant wrestling demons in pitch black. My crimes replayed, my regrets screamed louder. The cell wasn't the prison, my mind was. Even in isolation, violence found its way. A man down the tier hurled insults. I screamed back, slamming the door until my throat bled. He laughed. That night, I realized ADX turned words into weapons. Weeks turned into months, and the silence became unbearable. My ears strained for any sound, even the scrape of a shoe. One night, I swore I heard someone calling my name. The voice was soft, almost like a whisper through the vents. I pressed my ear against the wall, desperate to catch it again. Nothing. Just the hum of electricity and the pounding of my own heartbeat. But the damage was done. My brain had begun filling the void with ghosts. Some inmates confessed to hearing entire conversations, families laughing, guards plotting, even screams that weren't real. I never knew if the voice I heard was human or my mind breaking. Either way, it followed me into my sleep, where the voice grew louder, clearer, telling me I didn't belong in the land of the living. ADX runs on time, not freedom. Every moment was measured, counted, and cataloged. The guards performed counts at random hours, shining flashlights through the slot, demanding I stand, demanding proof I was still breathing. At first, I thought it was just procedure. Later, I realized it was psychological warfare. I started counting too. Tiles on the floor, cracks in the wall, seconds until the next mealtime. My entire existence reduced to numbers. I even carved tally marks on the steel bunk until my hands cramped. After a year, I looked at the wall and saw hundreds of scratches staring back, proof of how much life had already been stolen from me. I wrote dozens of letters that never left my cell, pages filled with apologies, confessions, and desperate pleas to family who might not even be waiting anymore. Sometimes I tore them up in rage. Other times I kept them folded under my mattress, hidden like contraband. The prison allowed monitored mail, but what I wanted to write could never pass inspection. So my cell became a graveyard of unsent words. In those letters, I poured out the man I once was, the man I wanted to be again. But every day I hesitated. Would they read it and see weakness? Would my family even open the envelope? ADX made you afraid of your own words, afraid of handing anyone else a piece of your soul. So the letters stayed buried in shadows, my silent screams trapped on paper. Recreation was supposed to be freedom. In reality, it was another cage, only bigger. A concrete pen with chain-link fencing above, designed so you couldn't see the mountains or the horizon. Just sky, sliced into squares. Some inmates paced. Others stared upward like it was the last view of heaven. I used to close my eyes and imagine walking through grass, the sound of birds, the scent of rain. But when I opened them, all I saw was concrete. Worse, guards watched from above, minding us that even in our brief taste of freedom, we were never alone. That hour became torture in disguise. It gave just enough to make you remember what life once felt like, before dragging you back into the tomb where sunlight didn't belong. We were never supposed to know each other, but isolation has cracks. One night, I heard faint tapping. Slow at first, then steady. Morse code. I leaned against the wall and listened, heart pounding. It took weeks, but I decoded it. 10 years, still here. That was his message. I tapped back, 3 months, losing mind. And just like that, I had a lifeline. We never saw each other's faces, but his knocks became my anchor. Sometimes he told stories, bits of memory, jokes, even Bible verses. Other times, just silence broken by one knock, proof that neither of us was completely alone. In a place designed to erase human contact, those stolen moments of connection were more powerful than any weapon. In ADX, nobody breaks the walls. The only escape is inward. I learned to build entire worlds in my head, streets I walked as a kid, conversations I never got to finish, even the smell of my mother's cooking. At first, they were just memories. But over time, they became elaborate, almost like films playing behind my eyelids. I rehearsed them so often that I could taste the air of freedom, feel the weight of grass beneath my feet, even hear laughter. Guards might have thought they had my body, but in those moments, my mind slipped their grasp. That mental freedom is what kept me alive. The irony? The same imagination they tried to crush became the only weapon strong enough to outlast the concrete coffin. 12 years. That's how long ADX held me hostage. 12 years of silence, ghosts, and cages within cages. They thought isolation would erase me, but it didn't. I walked out scarred, yes, but breathing. And that's something too many forgot to say. If you've made it this far, remember, survival isn't about strength. It's about finding light in the darkest pit, even when the world seals you off in steel and stone. This was my story inside America's most brutal prison. What would you have done to survive?